Pretty no
Okay,
leachate
are
and
we
no
all
iron
set?
and
Yeah.
stuff down
Well,
We get
in
past
the old-
this private argument down here?
The old landfill, which is really a dump.
Just welcome Rolly back.
Is that it?
Yes.
Where you going?
I wouldn't do that, he's my neighbor.
Thank you.
All set? Okay. I'd like to call to order the City of Muskego Landfill Standing Committee for, I shouldn't have said City of Muskego. Sorry about that, guys. Landfill Standing Committee for April 11th, 2016 at 5:03 p.m. Would the secretary please read the roll?
Mark Slocum.
Here.
Harvey Schweitzer.
Here.
Mike Collin.
Here.
Mike Hackney.
Here.
Greg Burmeister. Rebecca Lozano.
Here.
Eileen Madden.
Here.
Patrick Murray.
Here.
Don Matija.
Here.
Raleigh Cooper.
Here.
Greg emailed, so.
And Brett Nissen.
Yeah. How you doing? Statement of public notice?
Meeting was noticed in accordance with open
Approval of the minutes of the February 1st, 2016 meeting. How do you wish to move?
So moved.
Second. Corrections, addition, discussion? On hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are accepted unanimously. Open forum. We have no one here from the public. Compliance officer report?
As it's gonna be the practice, as long as we have the meetings here, I did an audit today. Since the last meeting, the audits have gone very smoothly. There's been heavy litter on-site, but none off-site. Today was the first time I noticed an off-site odor in many months, and it was with the high winds. It was mostly the odor of the aluminum foundry sand that was being tipped. It has a burnt quality to it that you smell when they forge aluminum. The gas plant will be down for over a month.
About a month now.
Why they wait for a part to come in, so they'll be burning the gas on site rather than delivery. And 2 audits ago, I issued my, we've taken pictures. These are the erosion points of concern. There's 90 days to repair, and that's based on an NR 504 statute that we use. It's never been an issue before, but we always record the start and end. It'll most likely be taken care of with cap placements. And I need a copy from either the landfill or from yourself of the email that states that the landfill was closed, just for the records that I keep.
Mike?
News to me.
You guys haven't closed or done any kind of email conversations with operations in a while, so I haven't gotten anything. But if I could get an email statement from somebody to record that the landfill was closed on the Saturday that you guys were doing the body search.
Oh, that's all you need?
Yeah, that's all I need is just a copy of one of the emails.
It just makes a paper trail.
Okay. Sure.
Sorry. And again, would you copy me on those things?
Mm-hmm.
That just goes into my trailing file.
So did you divert it across the street then, or?
Yeah, I think they had a couple of trucks go over there, and then the rest of them just went to the transfer station.
Oh, okay.
Questions of Joe? Okay. Status of projects? Clay extraction? Nothing?
Currently none, other than for daily cover.
Okay. And you still have a possible in the wind project, or?
Yes, yep. Still in the wind.
May or June?
Yeah, definitely May. Middle till late part of May.
go off-site or stay on-site?
Off-site.
Off-site.
Well, actually, plans are that we're gonna try to see what we can do with our other site out in Delavan, Mallard Ridge. We're gonna do some screening of the existing material that they have in the ground. We're gonna try to screen out the sand and stone, bring it here, and backhaul clay to them. They don't have clay, we need stone and sand for our next expansion. See how it works.
Okay? Household hazardous waste?
I put it on my action items to improve the system of reporting of the page layout for Rolly. So that is the action items for next meeting.
Right.
Good job, Rolly. See what good communication does?
You could have lessened your frustration if you would have said she was gonna bring you one anyway.
Now, better to provide magnifying glasses.
All right, so with this report, with this information, some key points to bring up, there's a lot of data on here. You guys said you wanted to have year-over-year comparisons, month by month, as we went through the program. I can make it more or less anytime, but you'll see the top table one is probably the only thing that you really need to look at, and the only thing that I'm gonna focus on tonight. So what we see as the problem here is that costs are up 58% from the same time last year. Pounds are up over 100%, but participants is only up slightly. So the cost participant has gone up significantly, and it's just an interesting situation that we're kind of dealing with, where the cost per participant's gone up high because the participants haven't gone up, but the pounds have gone up significantly. I started having concerns in November of last year when I saw a high price tag come in November, then another high price tag in December, then another high price tag in January. So I quickly set a meeting with John. We met on March 2nd. I supplied him with a boatload of information, so he knows that we are tracking this religiously and specifically. And he said that he would need time to analyze and synthesize all the data I had provided him before he could provide comment on what I thought were extremely diverse costs and numbers over what has happened historically since this program has been in operation. So I am still waiting for a reply on that situation from BES, and unfortunately, there's not much that we can do except keep letting them know we're paying attention. So I'm waiting for them, and I will send some more information once I have that. You know, the participants were not fully confirmed. It wasn't, we go through all of the slips and reconfirm it. So on Friday at 5, I had to just do a quick count, but it's pretty similar. It may change just a little bit according to the records. So as we can see, if we keep going at this rate, we're gonna run into issues again this year, which is why I'm trying to hit Veolia right away with this, that we need to kind of watch it. Although you should also note that the total program budget went from 311 last year to 325. That 325 total does include all the lamp costs, all the program costs, and the rental costs for the Muskego site. So that includes everything. And that 325 also includes the landfill payment, DATCP funds, things like that. So that budget remaining is real budget remaining when we're looking at all costs, all inclusive of this. So it's not looking great year to date, but I'm on it, and I will keep you informed on that situation.
Based on what you're seeing, if this were to keep up, we would need to take action next meeting?
Yes. If we met in 2 months, we might be able to hold off. If we're still gonna meet every 2 months, if we're gonna go to a quarterly, it'll depend on when we start that quarterly schedule, but we probably have to make decisions sometime by late August, July, August, somewhere in that range, so we can get the word out, make a decision, figure out what we're gonna do. I'm still hopeful that these were anomalies and that John will figure out something, and because I I think that the high costs in November were because they cleaned out. And then the high costs came into December, he said, well, we cleaned out. And then high costs came into January, he said, well, we cleaned out.
Yeah.
You were closed for 2 months, guys, come on. So it's just, I'm working with the contractor,
So year-to-date is the end of March?
yes. And March, I mean, again, I scrambled to get it ready by end of day Friday, just we weren't getting the reports, and we had to tally things up. So I wanted to make sure I could report on March, at least at some level at this point. These numbers are very close to being what we'll settle on with the contractor.
Incineration costs, that went up quite a bit. And what goes into that? Did so much more poundage go there, or?
That's what they say. So that's what they're claiming is that they had more materials that came in that had to be managed through incineration. Unfortunate part is, you know, when they report it in, and they send the invoice, as long as it's according to state contract, and we go line by line down every piece of that invoice to make sure that they properly coded, properly charged, but how can I argue with how much is being delivered? So,
Am I missing something? It says that for the first quarter, we did 48,000 whatever, and we still have 278,600 left. So if that's 3 more quarters, I'm just looking and saying, well, it looks like we'll be okay.
we might,
I mean, because we
Right,
still
these are-
have 200, let's say we have 200 and, like,
right.
276 left?
You have to take into consideration, we could be, but there are high months that are coming in.
Oh, okay,
So,
all right.
like, especially those mobile months are usually our high months to be
Okay.
almost 20,000 over 2015 at this point. That
Oh,
last
okay.
year is a little concerning.
All right.
But yeah, I thought the same thing, I was like, all right, so if we do 30,000 a month, so 10 more, but
I just was doing it by quarters. I said, there's 3 more left.
And I'm hopeful that April will slow down, I'm hopeful that we'll have a few months that.
Well, one of the
it'll start
things is,
to
we
ease.
don't know 100% for sure whether this is totally our waste.
Well, I mean, you have to trust your contractor, you have to trust your contracts, and there's no way that we can prove or disprove that. And, you know, we did an audit, and it showed no reason to not trust these numbers coming in. And again, I like to constantly talk to John, and I'm always after if a month comes in where it seems odd, and it's not consistent with history, and if it's just like, oh, it's a little bit, but if there's huge discrepancies year over year, I'm calling him and saying, what happened? What's going on? You know, so.
Yeah, well, this was a big one here, like you
Mhm.
said.
I'm waiting, I'm sure I'll hear back from him soon. I know they had a big event this weekend, so, at the state fair, he helps with that one from Milwaukee County.
How much of this type of business do they have in this area?
Oh, they're pretty much the big dog. I mean, they're safety clean.
They won the state contract.
Yeah, they've held the state contract for, I don't know, Joe, about over a decade.
Yeah,
And so they lost part of the state contract, and that was their bulbs, but I don't know who the state union for the bulbs, and we ended up being a subcontract. I have a contract with Veolia for bulbs and Veolia for this, so it didn't make sense for me to go through a different
No.
contractor when Veolia would be packaging and shipping, it just didn't make sense for us. But yeah, and that's what we piggyback off that state contract, and so I know we've had that discussion of, what if we went up for RFP, but we are a really small fish. You know, the county
That's
program.
kind of what I was asking.
It's a small program, and John tries to, you know, talk to me and say things, but.
and your program's very generous overall. You know, there's plenty of programs that reject recyclables. You know, you can't leave anything, they don't have the share program. We also should take into account that there was very little reporting actually in January of last year. And that's where it appears to be the highest jump is in January's numbers.
Well, and you're not seeing the November, December.
Right,
so, I mean,
right.
Basically, when we started shifting the closures, it skewed our numbers, and for several years, we're gonna have to play catch-up to the point where we have what we can expect moving forward, because what happened is that we ended up closing in December, all those costs got shifted to January, and then January closed the next year, and the cost got shifted to February. So we're kind of playing this catch-up of what is it really gonna look like?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just, you know, this is where we're at right now. I have my eyes on it. I have meetings with John and Deolia. I'm waiting to understand if there's anything to, you know, discuss what was going on, what happened, why there were several months of such high volume when we were closed, you know,
Yeah.
especially because the participant rates just aren't there. So people are really bringing in 125% more stuff.
I'd really watch the reactive part too. I mean, the incineration is up, but lots more stuff can be thrown into the incinerator nowadays as well, but it's the, what do we call it?
Treatment?
The corrosive cost treatment. That's a significant increase in volume, and that's the kind of thing that the first year of the program should have reduced. That's something we should see less of, not a spike.
Right. But again, to your point about the program being very inclusive, I guess I'll call it. The whole design of that was to make sure that we kept things out of the ditch. And if you start tightening up.
I didn't mean to make the recommendation
No,
to
no,
type up.
I just want to reemphasize that point.
But what do you think people do with it in other programs? With recyclables they can't get rid of?
I play games with corrosive things I'm not, I can't dispose of. I find stuff to mix it with that makes it safe, and it's fun. I don't recommend it for everybody. Oh, I mean, with the recyclables, if you bring a gas can to Franklin and you don't want the gas can, they empty it and then they throw the gas can in the recyclable. It's $1 maybe for our program, I'm just estimating. But they allow everyone that comes to do it. So it's $2, $300. It's not gonna change our program to do away with it. I'm just simply saying that there's other programs where they don't take your gas can from you. They don't accept the steel cans that the paint comes in. They'll empty the paint if they can use it in their fuel, in the burn part. But you have to take the paint can with you and allow it to dry out and throw it in your garbage afterwards or put it in recyclables.
Yeah.
There are things they don't have to take. They can reject anything that comes in a cardboard box. They can reject the cardboard box, but instead they take it. So it's incidentals, but it's a very inclusive program.
Yeah, but those incidentals, I mean, when we get down to it, it's not a lot of money.
Right,
So
no, that's
if
like I
it's
said, I was just.
$300 difference.
I just meant to point out that we have a very proactive, a very aggressive program that gives a lot of leeway to the people bringing it.
And I think.
And that's fine, but if it's only, $300 or something like that, it's nothing compared to the total program cost.
Right, and I mean, I still think we can meet our goals and be inclusive and come in budget with the changes we've made, or perhaps if we have to look at other things, I would like to give it a chance where we're at, and I mean, Joe makes a good point, we have options. And we will continue to have options within the program, but.
Any further discussion? Do we have the type size set now?
Got it figured out.
Very good. I'm only getting over here.
Reformatting the whole thing.
One column per piece of paper. MMSD project.
Currently, the gas plant is down because we're waiting for a custom-made part to come in that we need to replace. Once that comes in, we'll be back up and running. There really isn't much else going on in that right now.
How many of these custom-made parts do you have?
Just one. Zero in stock. Just one.
Something that has broken before?
No. It's a heating element that just failed.
It's good for 4 years, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a custom-made ding helmet, it has to fit specific things, so they're very pricey to keep in stock.
Brett should point out they wouldn't be taking the full load, even if they were up and delivering. MMSD has been fluctuating with what they'll take.
Thanks, Brett.
What percent of the load has MMSD been taking?
It varies. They're either taking 100%, and then when they don't take 100%, they take about 2/3, so 66%. And it's kind of hit or miss on what day it is. So.
And so you just automatically go to the
Yep.
big flare?
Yep. As soon as they dial it back, the system just kicks it over to the flare, and we'll flare whatever they're not taking.
Okay, that's all automatic to
Yep.
take over to the big flare?
Yep.
Okay.
It's just a shame you're losing it.
Yeah, I know. Nothing we can do about it right now, though.
Yeah.
Have you given any consideration to doing something different?
We have a contractual agreement, so no. We would be penalized if we did.
Electronic recycling?
Going well, no issues.
Give you a quick update on the countywide program.
Yep, I
So,
see a lot.
I have another report. It's a little bigger this time. So I should say, I don't have the final numbers for the last event that just happened on Saturday in Heartland, which happened conveniently. Now, Muskego residents should have gotten this last week, your fancy new newsletter, right? So, all Muskego residents should have got it. Okay. I have extras in case you want it, But we had advertised the Village of Heartland event in there that went out to the 107,000 households. And they had almost 700 vehicles onto that event, which is pretty darn near double the average vehicles going through. So needless to say, the need is there, the events are successful, our vendors are doing a very good job. So far, we've had about, this doesn't include the April event, so we'll be at about 1,800 participants served, and I'm probably gonna guess 150,000 pounds of materials in 4 months. So, coming up in Muskego, so you guys the Muskego event is the next event on May 14th, which will be at the City Hall parking lot.
This is the one that Dave's managing?
Big
Well, the vendors will manage every single one, but usually, they'll be, in case something happens, there's like a point of contact, which I'll be on site for the first hour. I always come on site for the first hour, make sure everything's okay, but like Dave said, they've done this before, they know what they're doing, everybody feels good about it, they'll stop out or make contact with Dave the week of the event, make sure that they're all on the same page, and then they come do their thing, they clean up afterwards, and we haven't had a problem yet, so.
It's the same vendor as last year when we did this, just Muskego did it, so it's the same exact vendor, so
Absolutely.
no learning curve for us.
And they're doing a great job. I mean, with as many cars as they had about a 10-minute wait on average at the Heartland facility. So, and the other ones hasn't been any wait, but this one was
That was a big turnout.
just a big turnout. Yeah. So, all in all, it's going very well. So, residents are very happy, the education materials getting out in a uniform fashion, people know about the fees, we haven't had any complaints about them or waits, locations, so everything seems to be going well. And I don't know if anybody wants one of these, if they didn't get one. It has also information on the new county mobile app that you can scan and download that can get you to news and events and where to do things. So, I will let you guys, if anybody wants one, take them.
Yes, I'm all.
Must have been the day my paper.
I'll have
decided
to
not
use
deliver
Rolly's
the paper.
device, I don't have
It was
one.
once a week.
What's
Come
that?
on, you guys.
I got an email, right?
Information.
Did you email it?
No.
Oh.
You want another copy?
Yeah, can I?
Just recycling.
Came in the email.
Just don't take the HW program for that.
No,
This is what we want to.
Jet did.
Just remember that.
I got it in the email from
Yeah, we
some,
had over 400 people download the app.
some Maring, some lady named Maring or something.
Did
said
you
that.
want one?
About a thousand.
Did you want one?
I have one.
The last recycling days.
Never know when there'll be a toilet paper shortage.
Anything else on electronic recycling? Residential drop-off?
No issues, unless you've heard something.
No. Well water testing, well testing, for well water protection area, I should say. I see Frank is here, so.
Yep.
All right, as a recap, last year in December, I believe in November, the cards, 105 cards went out. 37 cards were returned. Of that, one was a new person or a new home resident, so that they automatically went into the program. One flat out rejected, so we had to choose from 36, pick 35 out of 36, I should say. One, we had a scheduling conflict, so we were able to get the 35 homes. And a little summary of the event, there was one home last year that had a positive hit for bacteria for both times, the first time that we tested it, as well as the second time. We then gave that homeowner the WDNR chloroform bacteria information, testing and things like that, and he's on his own, they're on their own right now. So I haven't had any follow-up with them with whether or not they chlorinated or had a well fill or anything like that.
Were they a repeat of that same problem?
No, that was the first time that they had that problem. They previously were fine the year before. There were 25 secondary standards of iron, which is pretty much common in the past. In the years past, we've had 25 to 30 different types of iron standards of exceedances. There were 5 secondary standards of sulfates. And again, that's pretty much common with the area of things. No manganese. With the VOCs, there were 10 different wells that had some VOCs detected. Only one had a detection above the detection limit. All the other ones were flagged as a J, which means between the limit of detection and the limit of quantification.
All in the same area?
No, a variety of different areas, both upgraded as well as side and downgraded. Neighbors didn't have any things like that. There was no randomness, or it was very random. There was no pattern to the detection.
I wouldn't expect to see anything coming from the landfill, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have some hits at some time from vehicle accidents or something along that line that ends up with a contamination going into the ground.
A few of them were toluene and acetone, and a lot of it, related to,
What were those?
as far as in relationship,
Yeah, east, north, south, you don't have to be that accurate.
I'd have to. We had an acetone hit on 7 Mile Road. We also had an acetone hit on Raynor. Toluene, it was on Loomis Drive. We also had one instance where the laboratory analyzed the private well outside the 14-day hold time. It was hours outside the 14-day. So we didn't come here we just took it upon ourselves after the laboratory notified us. We issued another resampling, and the laboratory picked up that cost because it was outside. Not that after 14 days everything leaves, it's just a requirement. So we felt, because it's the private well owner, we would do the retesting. If it was an on-site well, we would have probably just done it next quarter or the next time around, things like that. But because it was and then surprisingly enough, there were things that showed up the first time, very low levels, that didn't show up the second time, and vice versa. Things didn't showed up the second time that didn't show up the first time. So all this was done at Pace Analytical. Now what Pace did, and I don't know exactly when they started it, but all these VOC samples were sent out to Minneapolis, to their lab. They didn't get back to me yet as to when they started this practice. making these regional labs that do VOCs in Minnesota, inorganics in Wisconsin, things like that. So I'm not,
Anything in trip link?
there was one hit in a trip link for,
That's good.
I'd have to- there was one in a trip link.
What does that mean?
Trip links, what a trip link is, it's a sample that leaves the laboratory of clean, deionized water, and it comes from the laboratory to us in the field, or to our office, and then it accompanies those samples to the individual homes. And then we return that trip link with a cooler that may have 10 or 12, whatever the sampling event for that day is. And then they analyze that just to get a spectrum as to where those sample bottles have been. There have been instances where contamination from exhaust fumes and things like that. Again, these are parts per billion, so very low level, so that trip link helps identify any of that. As well as there's lab blanks that are supposed to be in between the batches and things like that to prevent any carryover from sample to sample. We don't do a field blank when we do private wells, because there's really no contact we come into with the sample, because we're taking it either at the well spigot or the faucet at the pressure tank, or in the case of the metals, we'll take that at the faucet in the kitchen sink. Whereas in the field here, we will actually do a field blank because we're using equipment to withdraw and to collect that sample. And we wanna make sure that we don't carry over or cross-contaminate something from one well to the next well to the next well. So that's why we primarily rely on trip links and then the other things, and then the lab links and things. If you give me a minute, I could find out. I believe it was an acetone.
Not methylene chloride for once.
No,
That's
it
nice.
wasn't methylene chloride
And no freon.
and no freon.
We've had 2 clean runs across the street on the difluoromethane.
Really?
Yeah, and we changed, well, in Mike's time, we changed labs, and that seemed to have an effect. So, but Loomis Road has a new business, and since its installation, I've picked up toluene, J-flag, obviously on the other side.
Okay.
And then on the other side of Rainier, there's somebody who paints their car or does something, so once every 3 years, there's a
There's a
toluene
garage,
hit, but
there's-
it's almost like a guarantee, like 3 years, and it's the same location. So.
And it was toluene in the trip link
Yeah, oh, okay.
that we detected.
Plastic caps?
No, they're septums. They're Teflon coated on
Okay.
the bottom, and then it's a rubber septum on top where they plunge, where the plunger goes through. That's where some of the contamination has been from airborne or from exhaust and things like that. When the samples are placed in their trays, there's a plunger that punctures that septum, and it'll carry in a little contamination. There hasn't been any comments from the homeowners that we sent out letters. Of the 10 homes that had VOCs, we recommended that next year they send their card in and that we add them to the list. Make them not automatic. I don't wanna say, I don't believe there's gonna be 35 new homes in the area, but I just wanna make sure that, you know, that they become part of the program again next year. We recommended that. And everything else went fine.
Okay.
Very good.
Letters went out in January, I believe. January, February. Oh, I'm sorry, March 1st. January, February, March. 2016. They've got them out in 2016. Guaranteed. I was thinking about sending them in January. No, January would have been too soon because we collected it towards the end of December. We didn't get the results until sometime in February.
Do you send a letter on the sulfate and the iron too, or?
Yes,
Oh.
yeah. They get a complete packet, and then they get a little explanation on the parameters and things like that, and the ranges that the state has and so forth. And there's our number as well as, I think we put Mike's number in there for the landfill to contact.
Anything else? Plan mod issues?
No.
Nothing on the books, huh?
Nothing requested.
Property protection, sociological? Anything?
No, still, there's a couple of them out, there's one for sale out on 8 Mile. And then there's another potential one down on 45. That one I think is in a trust though, so they're trying to figure that out, that all out. The gentleman had passed away, who lived there.
You were right.
Okay. New business. Item 1, discussion, interaction on committee meeting frequencies. Currently, we meet 6 times a year, or that is the schedule. This last year, we met 5 times. We did not meet during the Christmas break, if you wanna call it that. So, that made us meeting 5 times. As a result of that, the question came up, do we need 6 meeting dates? Do we need 5? Can we consider going to 4?
I mean, my thought is, it seems like we go over, everything seems to stay the same for the most part, except, of course, when we have rain or something unusual goes on. So, yeah, it's kinda like rolling. You guys, you don't show up that often.
It's a Wind Lake thing. It's a Wind Lake. We go to our own meetings.
We hold ours at Kelly's.
Yeah, yeah.
How come I don't get invited to that?
So I guess I'm
Get a
looking
credit
for
card.
feedback
You
from
got a credit card?
everybody. If you think, do you think you benefit from coming as often as we do? Or do you think it would be reasonable to change it to, I don't know, 3 times a year?
I really think it should be quarterly, 4 times a year, but then you have the option to call a special meeting if something comes up. That's what they do across the street.
Right.
We schedule 4 times a year, and if something does happen where she has come in with her reports or whatever, and we need it done in a certain time, what's wrong with calling a special meeting, you know?
Yeah, special meeting can be called at any time.
Yeah.
No question about it.
So then really, the 4 meetings, why? 4 meetings and then 5 maybe, if we had a special one, right?
Right.
Or 6 if we had to have 2 special ones.
You know, right now, what I see for issues are primarily those that require very close monitoring and decision-making is the household hazardous waste.
But we wouldn't make the decisions before a 3rd quarter meeting anyways, that's when we would make decisions.
I realize that, but usually what the committee historically has preferred is that we have options presented at meeting X, and then X plus 1 is when we
Gotcha.
cut the line. Well, if you're generally only scheduling 4 meetings a year, are we cutting it a little close? That's my question, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to get the data, and we would have to discuss and make a decision. We wouldn't be able to wait until.
Last time it took, what, a year to make some decisions?
That was a little different, I think
That was the first
we're
time we did
over
it,
the
too.
hump.
Nobody called a special meeting last year, didn't we? Was it
Yes,
last
we
year?
did call a special meeting for it,
That was the
That-
year
Year
before.
before.
Yes,
or year
you're right.
before, okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if she gets the options out and she feels that we gotta have them before that meeting, which we should have, we'll call a special meeting, just on that one thing, you know?
I mean, you don't have many options for household hazardous waste. I mean, it's either
Well, I
gonna
mean, if
reject
we call a
material
special
or.
meeting, it's gonna be, we have to close in November and everybody needs to agree to it. I mean, that's what we would call a special meeting for at this stage of the game. You know, I don't think we have, unless we sit down and try to restructure again, but again, I'm hoping to give it some time, you know, before we sit down and try to restructure again, you know.
Does the host agreement define a minimum number of meetings?
Sorry.
Hmm?
Sorry.
I don't make money on committee meetings.
You don't?
Nope. Except for when Rebecca takes us past an hour.
Is that black?
No, we offer first hour free. Remember?
Chained?
Any other comments?
Still shouldn't you chain it?
I think Willie makes a good point. If we have 4 meetings, I'm sorry, if we have 4 meetings, and then if we have to have a special meeting, so that seems to make sense. Because we meet for even months, right? We meet on the even months? 2, 4, 6? Okay. So I think 4 meetings is enough.
What would be the protocol to call a special meeting? I just want to make sure that if I need to do it, I do it appropriate to how.
To put a flag up.
Get a hold of me.
Waive it,
Get
so
a hold-
everybody comes.
Get a hold of me if I'm not available, vice chair, and after that,
Upside down, be over there.
Dave,
We'll go move everybody.
Dave can call a remainder for now.
Yep.
Okay. We should.
So they have to decide what months they're gonna, how are we gonna do that, since we're into the year? We always take the end of the year off, right? Haven't we, we don't have a
No,
December
no,
meeting.
No, that's not true.
No, we
Last
did
year was
December, we
the
just
only
changed
one
it.
that we ever,
Oh, okay. Well, would this be something we implement starting next year?
we can implement it starting today.
Okay.
When does, if the landfill is gonna do some sort of more work, do you guys have a certain time of year that you would do something more likely to be doing things?
During the summer months.
That's when construction will typically take place.
Because June's always been our tour.
I would think we would
Unless we
wanna
forget.
make
No,
sure If they quarterly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the most important one.
Right.
Last year,
2 years ago.
I first did January, April, July, October, or get to February.
Mike, I wasn't
May,
gonna say anything.
I was thinking January.
January, April, July, October. If you didn't want any 3 months.
Cause winter months really probably don't have much activity of something going
No, they won't.
extremely wrong.
Just the well monitoring program.
In July, we'll always be fooling around with the 4th of July holiday.
But we don't get results.
We don't
No, we don't get
Results
results,
in
I
March.
just report to you that at
Well,
least
this
we
year
sent
will
out
be
Right,
cards.
the
and-
right,
Yeah.
But it-
So I
you know,
say,
last
we
14
will
years,
always
we
have that issue
had a
that,
good handle.
right,
Come
yeah.
November, we send out cards,
We
come
can
December,
have
we do the program.
our 4
Yeah,
meetings
there's residents on the committee who
just off shift
might mean that I
that
don't get
month,
them.
all the way
Sure, it
through.
would have to be.
Complain.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You can start in February instead.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I would think you, yeah, that,
No, you're good.
we've got something covered there.
So February,
We've done February and April, in June.
February, May, no, February.
You know, and it really wouldn't hurt to skip January and February's meeting, or January and December, because we really, there's
That's- yeah.
nothing going on in January and December.
You could do February, May,
Right.
August.
If you wanna do that tour, I mean, you might not be able to do it in May.
Do it in August, though, right?
What's
It
that?
smells better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we wanna?
No, I
do
mean
it
in August, it smells like money. I recommend you have a meeting in May. In April is when they do all their annual reports, so it's a good time to hear the condition of the landfill, right?
So
15th is
February,
usually when
May,
everything's
August,
due.
November.
Oh, 30th.
30th, okay, so then definitely May makes more sense.
Okay, if it's the same occurrence on the month, which is the first Monday of the month, does that still meet that? Or are we better off different than that?
We have it the first Monday, we do change it if we, the month.
Right.
I'm just kinda asking Mike.
Are your reports done, I guess, is what he's asking? If we came in
Are you gonna
first-
do February, May?
February, May, August, November. By May, are you going to have your annual reports done?
Oh, yeah, they'll be
It'll be
into the
sent.
state by the end of April.
Okay. So a May meeting works just fine?
Yes.
Should.
Okay. Okay, right now, it looks like
What?
going to a meeting schedule of February, May, August, and November. Any further comments or discussion?
Starting,
That- yeah, that's right.
Starting
We're
when?
gonna meet next month then?
Next month.
And then that meeting.
November, May. I'll be here.
Is that what you want to
That's the first
February or?
Monday.
Start
Do you
right
want
this
to
year.
just, okay.
It's the first week in November.
Start this year and start.
Fall starts.
We'll meet in May and then we won't meet again till August.
Opening day out.
They start changing up.
what would you rather do June this year?
Do the tour this year.
Yeah, why don't we do,
Split.
why don't we, since it's do June this year, just a
Okay.
adjustment.
Okay,
So June, with this year, we'll do February, June,
okay, we'll do February, June, August, November for this year. In November, we can decide what we're gonna do for the following year.
It's the first Monday?
yeah.
Yes. Could I have a motion for that?
So moved.
For this year.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the meeting motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. Landfill response to law enforcement requests for emergency support, the impact on landfill operations, and the impact on the community. I asked to have this on the agenda to bring the committee up to date on what has transpired, but also to bring the committee up to date on the internal workings, what happens during these kinds of events. Because there's a lot of interaction that takes place. And I guess right at the moment, I would start it off with Mike, and Craig is gonna be part of this too,
I'm just here if I need to answer any questions based on being at the event itself.
well, not only being at the event, but your input.
We were notified, Saturday morning,
About 6:30.
what was the date? 19th or 20th?
Of what, of March?
In March, yes.
March.
Oh, that's right, it was gone.
From what I understand, the police department was already at our hauling division in Muskego early in the morning Saturday, 4 AM. So they got a hold of the GM that runs that division, and that general manager, Dan Goodsell, got a hold of Brett, and let Brett know that they're not allowing us to open up the site, and then Brett got a hold of me. So Brett and I were both here Saturday morning. They wouldn't let anybody back there until they were all set up and trying to find out. The only person they wanted to go in the back at that time was the operator. And he happened to be working that Saturday, so, and he's the one that was in the area at the time. So he understood where everything was and where we were going with the garbage on Friday night. After a while, the operator wasn't comfortable with running some of the equipment and stuff, so they asked one of us to go back there. So I went back there, and that time we let the detectives and the local police department direct us on where they wanted us to dig and how we were to do that. So we did exactly what they asked us to do. It was pretty much, we had a 329 excavator and a D60 dozer. So we would scoop in a certain area, spread that out with the bucket, 8 to 10 bucket loads. At that time, then the police, the detectives, about a dozen or so, they would comb through it with rakes and pitchforks. And then they'd bring the dogs in. They had 4 to 5 diver dogs here. They would go through it. Once they said, okay, we pushed that material on. So we had an area, and we would just repeat that. We had an area opened up Sunday or Saturday night, probably 100 by 100. And that was the only open garbage we had at that time. So we continued that Sunday morning, the same thing, until approximately 3 PM when we found the victim. And I called Mark Saturday and Sunday to let him know what we were doing and how things were going. Other than that, I couldn't say anything to anybody. I didn't know anything, so. And then, of course, I was in contact with corporate the whole time, too. The police department did a great job of controlling the gate. That's our main concern, is either someone from the site or the local police department does that to make sure that they keep television crews, reporters, and the public away, and they took full charge of that, so. Relatively easy for us. All we did was, follow their directions.
When you put that material back in, how do you get it compacted the same as what you normally?
We did it Monday, we did it the same way. We pushed it in with the dozer and had the compactor run it all over again, and then we covered it with clay.
Now, Saturday night, was there any cover?
No, not on the areas that we exposed,
And that was 100 by 100?
roughly, 100 by 100.
And Sunday, did you expand that area?
A little bit, maybe another, I don't know, 50 by 50, you know, it was half the size.
Okay, and how did you determine the area to investigate?
Based on where we were filling Friday night.
Okay.
The police gave us the truck, and we were able to track down when that truck was dumped here. So that helped us out immensely, and where to go and how deep to go. It was later in the afternoon, which helped.
How deep did you go?
How deep?
Mhm.
Maximum 4 feet.
Was that, were you directed by Muskego PD or Hills Corners?
Muskego was running most of it.
That lady was
It
killed.
was a
Hills Corners.
combination with Department of Criminal Investigation, DCI, the state agency. It was
Right.
Hales Corners case, but because it ended up here in Muskego,
Right.
then obviously
You're
we
involved.
needed jurisdiction. Again, Hales Corners, they're limited in their resources, obviously, with what they had going on. They requested this Department of Criminal Investigation come in, they had about 3 operators, maybe 4. And then we, on Saturday, at least had 8. We brought in 8 of our own guys. We scaled back once, you know, we were limited what we could do. And then Sunday, we had a detective be on site from the beginning, you know, 7:30 until they found them. And I believe the idea, according to Hales Corners and Department of Criminal Investigation, that, and this is again according to conversation they had with the district attorney in Milwaukee, that no matter what happened on Sunday, it was gonna be done at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and that was gonna be the end of the search. So either way, no matter how it went,
Really?
Sunday was gonna be, they were gonna call.
Did you have to bring in additional lighting or anything?
No,
We were
Sure,
out at
we
6
daylight
p.m.
hours.
Saturday, and I think, yeah, lighting's, you know, it stayed, you know, light till about 6:37, and it was just about that time. And again, finding, you know, in the afternoon on Sunday.
But you did allow press in somehow, right?
We had a staging area
Okay.
outside, on 45 or something.
They were taking pictures of the long landfill anyway.
So I
Were
can
they?
only imagine what it
That's
looked like when you found what you're looking for.
Actually, it wasn't bad.
Really? Because I would have thought it would have been kind of scattered.
Everybody's different definition of bad.
Was the
I
body,
guess my-
The body's a very fragile thing.
Was it
let's put that
intact?
way.
Yeah.
Somewhat-
Under what it had to go through from the point of being picked up in Hales Corners,
uh-huh,
Right.
in the truck,
Compacted.
dumped,
uh-huh.
and then, you know, again, I learned a lot that day, obviously, about how you guys operate here, and pushing, filling, you know, everything else, even with the window that we had, you know, with the amount of trucks, I think the dump was they dumped that truck approximately 3 p.m., and then X amount of trucks, I heard between 20 and 50 followed, and then, you know, the area, which was 100 by 100, et cetera. It's amazing how much garbage obviously can be
In that amount.
in that amount of time. With that being said, you know, we were looking for mail from that area of Hales Corners, so that was, you know, other things that we're looking for, just to try to see if we could pinpoint closer yet as far as where to focus our search. So,
I guess my question was, were you able to get all the evidence?
no, we were only able to get layman's terms half.
Okay.
They were looking, you know, again, this is Hales Corners investigation.
when something like this happens, is there something that you guys have to do knowing that there's still contamination, so to speak, in that area to,
Oh, no.
no?
Once we were given the okay by the authorities, we went back to normal business.
Was serious
There's-
there? Was serious
No.
there?
We just used the laboratories from throughout the state. And
How do you look for something that's been there for 2 weeks?
You know,
Well,
It's very difficult.
I've been involved in 2 other searches, and the time frame from 2 weeks to a month,
You just
I didn't
think
find the
of
other 2
Like a needle in a
victims,
haystack.
yeah.
it really is.
But because this happened so, I mean, it was, and I don't know how it came down so fast, but thank goodness it did.
Yeah, it was within a day or two.
Yeah, I mean,
Takes time.
we were in a tight little spot on that day, not like we were, you know,
And once you get.
we always try to keep it a little tight, Joe, I'll tell you.
Well,
On
and
that
you
day,
guys-
we were on, we're close to an outboard
Yeah,
slope,
so we're
so
keeping
you're
it
kinda
tight.
limited on, you know, cause you're filling the
He
outboard
wasn't
slope
loving
at the
the
same time, a top and all
we're
that.
still
so-
lucky, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I mean, anything over a day, really, you're not gonna be able to find.
It's,
much anything.
you're lucky.
Oh,
Imagine, you know,
yeah,
back to
real
4,000
lucky. I
tons
thought
per
we were
day.
lucky to
know.
find that.
Yeah, we would.
From your standpoint, Craig, of having been out there and, going through the material, is there anything that you would have liked to seen different that would have made what you guys are out there doing easier? In terms of facility here, how it's operated, and that kind of thing?
I mean, we're realistic, we understand what we have going. Again, we incorporated Waukesha Sheriff's command post, so we had an area because it was kind of chilly, so we had an area to get in and out. But as far as the equipment, we understood that basically it was a recovery mission, and we're looking for a mine. And at that point, you know, I thought everything went according, you know, with what we had, operators, the tools, everything worked out fine, in my opinion, and I have not heard anything less from our department. And Hales Corners was extremely appreciative of the effort that was made by everyone. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we do a debrief as far as, you know, our methodology as far as, you know, when we get to that point where the body is located and everything else, we can fine tune it on our end. But as far as what we had, what else, we had to move a lot of material, and we did what we could, and again, we had to take time out once in a while and say, hey, let's just regroup here and try to strategize, and we used the opinions of you and the other guy that was doing the bulldozing, just say, hey, exactly where did, you know, where were things happening, and we had to regroup a couple times, and you know, everyone, you know, played a very integral part. So, to answer your question, everything went according, you know, well, under circumstances.
We did receive a letter of thanks from Hales Corners last week, Friday.
Okay, well, that was nice.
This was very nice.
Yeah, in case the committee here doesn't know it, that was, Mike's volunteer time out there. And I think on all of these situations so far, there's been no charges to any communities or any agency, to my knowledge. Is that correct?
Right.
So, I know I do appreciate that, and I know the community does, but I wanna let you know, let the committee know that, you know, you've been doing this gratis.
You do what you have to do.
Yeah, I hear that, but I also hear, gotta do what you gotta do, but as long as you pay me. Questions? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have two. Did the police have full PPE for your safety plan?
They were wearing PPE,
But they had the steel toe shoes and.
that I don't know.
Okay.
I wanna make sure they.
I bring it up for future reference, not
Best.
vests,
For the
but
important-
everything you could provide, hard hats.
They had vests on.
And did anybody work in the cut?
In the cut?
Yeah, you
Clay
said
cut?
No, where you cut the waste, where you were actually excavating the
No,
trench.
they would go down in there with the dogs after we stopped moving and everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's steel-toed shoes, is that something that's required of them?
Painful.
Every site has its own safety plan.
No, and,
Once you've written the safety plan, you have to adhere to
Yeah,
it.
do you, what
So
do you want
technically,
to,
someone else could cause grief because the police didn't follow the safety plan.
Yeah, can we,
That's
can
why
we
I
go
asked,
to
because
the,
Mike provided
the,
everything he could for him.
extra
like the vest.
discussion here about the gun range quick?
Used to have the aluminum inserts in the shoe.
Review payments?
I'm not gonna tell you, David, where.
No, of course not.
Yeah, let's just continue on for a
But the police
moment.
should know for the next time, that's all.
Excuse me, need your attention up here. Go ahead, Eileen.
Okay, I, was just, we talked about possibly opening up the gun range a little bit more for the police department. It's not really being used that much to begin with, and they're having a lot of new hires. And with the new hire, they need to take them out there and get them certified with the gun and the rifle and all those good things. And it just seems a shame to make them use up their regular range time to do that. And I think you're looking at several new officers in the immediate future, right?
I mean, we're down 3 right now, and potentially within a year, it's gonna potentially be, I'm just guesstimating, maybe 3 more.
You're probably another half a dozen through the process.
It's very possible, and it could be more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so instead of having to call for extra time every time they need an extra hour or something like that, we're just looking for a little more leeway so that when it comes to something like that, they can just go in and do that.
Would just be like allot them some extra time or
Right,
for training.
right.
It would be probably 6 days, 6 different times, and probably not more than an hour and a half type of thing. You know, if the activity went for an hour and a half, I'd be surprised. Probably about an hour, you might hear some things, but
I don't ever recall hearing anything in Champions
Yeah,
Village.
yeah. And I was saying, I think if they just, as long as he keeps track and he knows, so if anything happens, we can call him and say, oh yeah. it
Or
was-
just notify us so that we know if somebody says something, we say,
Right.
that
Yeah.
they're
That's every day.
It's gonna
training.
stay restricted to Muskego?
yes,
Yeah.
FBI's not coming in extra
No.
and Milwaukee?
Just Muskego.
FBI hasn't been here since.
They come frequently, and they got the most, there are a lot of the most days, they have other meetings, they hit us up half a dozen times at best. Again, we have 10 days allotted to us, and again, if we were there for an hour, it technically is a day.
Mhm.
So you guys know that, so, and then we have the, skid, the tactical team, they have 10 days, they sometimes do training, but again, we are looking to not have to
Consume a day.
dip into those days
Right.
for required qualifications for new guys.
I don't see it, as long as time of day isn't crazy.
Yeah.
Where is the,
Everything
where
stays
is the
within the
range?
same, the guidelines.
And
No-
behind that-
No change in that.
Dirt bank over
Oh,
there.
that berm there?
Other side.
Okay, all right.
You obviously have not been to the Citizens Academy.
I went to the Real Police Academy many years ago, that was enough.
So are we looking for a
I
motion here?
spent 7.5 years as a Milwaukee cop.
Ooh. Okay, do we need a motion?
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
yes.
then I
To
will make a.
allow, what do you call that, recruit evaluation?
Certification.
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 Recruit certification, that's good, because it's not really a training, no.
Right.
Just to be, nobody
Recruit
voted no yet
certification,
today.
yep. 6 events,
And it might be more, let's say 6 to 10, just because we don't know how many, I mean, there's
Not to,
times you get
why
one
don't
and
you do
then,
not to exceed 10?
there you go. That
not
one,
to exceed 10
Is that your motion?
on an annual basis, it's not my motion. It's gonna be Arlene's motion.
Is
Man,
that
and
your
if it's
I'm
motion?
just helping
is that
clarify.
my
If
motion?
it's
Yeah.
something that he absolutely needs to change, I mean, he can come
Firearms,
back and
yeah.
request some more.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just looking for the, do you think 10's gonna be enough?
Why don't we start with,
Okay.
rather, this meeting
Don't know.
with
Okay.
that, and if anything, if I put together a proposal, and I see that it's not working or whatever, if that's okay, I would request to be put on the agenda and go from there, but again, our goal is not to
Right.
shoot for 8 hours a day, 20 more days. I mean, technically, we have 93 days to use, and again, we're not trying to take all of it. We're trying to work with things, and I can get 2 days done.
It has not been an excessively noisy
No,
event.
and that was a concern.
They've been very good about that.
Get lucky, they're not, the FBI not using it that much. I think WCTC is only using it less than a half a dozen.
So what do the officers do, the pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun?
Mostly pistol and rifle.
Mhm.
Some shotgun because we have less lethal
Uh-huh.
capabilities now, so yes, we'll use some
Okay.
shotguns.
But you don't really hear much.
I can't recall.
Is that with the
that I-
beanbag?
Correct.
I always think it's my.
It's an ammunition thing too, because I'm in charge of
Why?
ammunition, and
Beanbags.
Huh?
can't afford to have them shoot 100 rounds at a crack.
Mhm.
We have a state qualification course for handgun now, that's a requirement to be able to shoot or be a law enforcement officer in the state.
Mhm.
That's a 50-round course, so we just did that in last quarter. And everything else, I've told my instructors to just get the goals and objectives accomplished with the appropriate amount of ammunition. So again, our goal is not to just go crazy,
Mhm.
hustle left.
Yeah.
He felt that he owned the ammo, but we honed it, we honed it in a little bit.
Okay.
So there you go, that's my motion.
All right,
Second.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? On hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
I had one alderman once that wanted to take the police ammunition line out of the budget. I said, so you mean we can't buy bullets for the police department for a year? And he looked and he goes, well, I guess so. I go, I don't think so.
Bring them on.
Sorry, guys, it's September, you're out of ammo.
Yeah.
Shoot, go pick up your bullet and
Repack it. Police your brass.
recycle.
Yeah.
We should put that firing range on our next tour.
Yeah. That's a good.
Wait a minute.
Oh, Mark,
That the firing range should be on our next tour in June.
Okay,
You haven't been to Citizens Academy either, huh?
For what? My dealings with the police aren't usually so great, so that.
They have
You
open
resemble
house.
their remote.
oh, they got a special pocket for that now, huh?
Oh, this, I can go to Walmart after this. Not that I want to.
You better put your.
That'll cause you some,
Your side, Mr. Schmidt.
Just the name.
that'll cause you some overtime, you go to Walmart.
Oh, Walmart's provided us with a lot.
Yes.
Like I said, apparently they don't have good toasters in Milwaukee. They come out here to get them. Our friends out there.
They're in Franklin, they're in
Oh,
Greendale.
They're cheaper though out here when they walk away with them.
Whatever, I'm just saying.
You don't have to pay for them all.
It's amazing.
People out here are afraid of them, so they won't come from around the store. That's the problem.
okay.
You're shopping for your toasters in Walmart.
Next meeting in June
No, no.
is tour of the landfill. It's also going to be tour of the range.
Maybe we should throw in the HHW program too. You guys haven't seen that?
Pardon me?
Maybe you should look at the HHW program while you're doing all your tours.
They're not open on Monday, so that would require them to provide
You got June
special
this year and
staffing
then-
on site.
June, August,
Or-
I am just ignoring it.
Yeah.
February.
And there's nothing to see.
He's just trying to extend time now.
Nothing here, nothing here.
He's past his hour.
Well,
But you only have to be here for, right?
That's because you're back rolling. That, 'cause since
You
you
caused
came
it.
back,
You're the one who makes sure Becca's works.
now he's on over.
I should maybe
Me or
make
someone?
a motion that he
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, we'll do it early on.
Are we gonna do it early then? The meeting would be at
Yeah, we
4?
usually do it like 4.
That works out
Do we
good.
wanna
You
go
ought to
for
get- you ought to get a day.
I got paid today. And then you guys don't pay the extra mileage either.
Hey,
I don't wanna be
I love
in the
Muskego,
middle
you're
there.
good. It's my favorite
Mike?
spot.
Mike, what's
Yes,
good?
sir.
Good for
Best
you?
time for the landfill tour, next meeting, 4:30,
No, it's not.
4 o'clock, 3.
We did the gun
4:30.
range first, so,
Right.
Mhm.
we're thinking of doing the gun range, but we would do that first, if that helps you out.
Do I get to bring my rifle?
What do you wanna
Bring
see
it,
back
yeah,
there?
sure.
You wanna see things going on, like, if you wanna see us covering, 4 o'clock would be good. We can just go back there, well, 4 o'clock we're done. 4:30 would be good. We can go back there right away. They'll be closing it up about 4:30. If that's what you wanna see.
But
If
we
you
wanna see
don't,
the range too.
then we can go over to
Yeah.
the range.
We'll go there first.
Do the range at 4?
If you don't care about the covering procedures, how we do it, it's just a bunch of dirt getting pushed around. If you wanna see it, 4:30 would be good.
Okay, so 4 o'clock will be the meeting start. We'll meet here, we'll be going to the range. And we'll be done there by 4:30 back here to go on a landfill tour with Mike.
Perfect.
So we get to see, cover it.
What time's the meeting start? 5?
4.
4.
After the tour.
After the tour,
5,
Yeah.
5 o'clock. Okay.
roughly. Doesn't,
Mark,
Roughly.
I will not be able to attend a June 6th meeting, just as an FYI. I have previous stuff that I'm unable to attend the June 6th meeting. Whether it was at 4 or 5, if it was at 1.
About that early, can you make a 1 o'clock meeting?
No,
So just as an
definitely.
FYI.
I would have to just excuse myself.
Okay.
Becky, you said June sixth?
Make it
I'm
June,
unable to
Any-
attend June 6th.
Okay.
Just sign me
I'll
up.
make it June 7th.
Any further discussion on the meeting for June 6th?
It is still gonna be on the sixth though, right?
Unless I hear some big issues.
Is Rebecca at a conflict?
I cannot attend the meeting on June 6th. If it works for everybody else, I don't think that it's, you know, I'm not gonna ask you, everybody to change their schedules to accommodate one person on the committee. I'm okay not attending. I used to do this all the time when I was teaching.
The heater in the back.
Good.
Yeah, turn that down, that one's.
But, I mean, for HHW reporting, again, I don't think there's
Bathroom
anything.
heated? Actually, that might be the one that's right in the hallway too.
Why don't we just take the weekend?
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
so it's June 6th.
So, next meeting is June 6th, 4 o'clock. That will be the range tour. 4:30 approximately will be the landfill.
And I'll have a van, so if you all wanna park here,
Great.
and we'll wheel you over there to look at the shooting range. Wheel you in the back.
Okay?
The party van with
Yeah, buddy, you is.
Absolutely.
Squirt guns. As long as we get the shooting gun outside.
Oh, that'd be,
I'll be behind you.
that'd be scary.
And I'll be late.
That'd be really scary.
It'll be a good day to show up at 5.
Yeah.
It'll take a day though. Take 1 day to it.
Yeah. Okay, citizen commentary, nothing. Any other businesses allowed by law?
We skipped,
We skipped the balance.
I'm sorry. Review committee payments from committee funds.
Nothing unusual reports.
But it's on the record.
It's all here.
Okay,
We're getting rich.
I'll ask you one more time. Communications, other businesses allowed by law, anything?
No,
We're looking for a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:17.
next month, Ron?